Good morning.
Good morning.
And welcome to the Cathedral of St. Patrick. Today, we come to pay tribute to a giant, to call to mind a great man. And yet he comes before his Lord for the most humble of acts, the rite of Christian burial. Let us assist our brother with our prayers, with our songs, and with our sentiments. Please be seated now. At this time, we invite forward for a few words of remembrance the Honorable Kathy Hochul, Governor of the State of New York.
I want to acknowledge the presence of so many who traveled to be here, not to mourn Charlie, but to celebrate an extraordinary life. Thank you. Minority Leader Chuck Schumer, Democratic Leader Hakeem Jeffries, Senator Kirsten Gillibrand, President Bill Clinton has joined us as well, and countless members of the Rangel family and members of Congress, past and present, elected officials. You know, Charlie was a giant in American life. He was a warrior from back in his days on the battlefield, hence the military designation here today. But he's a warrior for justice and such a proud, proud son of Harlem. I feel the presence of Harlem in this room today. Anyone from Harlem out there? Yeah, I thought so. I could feel it. I could feel the spirit of Harlem that lives through all of us. Enough. You know, when I was a young attorney on the staff of a congressman and Senator Daniel Patrick Moynihan, already Charlie Rangel had made a name for himself. He was that cool congressman from Harlem that everybody knew his name and revered him. And I watched him as he had a title with great power. But that wasn't who Charlie was. He wanted to use the power of his position to do good for others. And he put a glaring spotlight on the needs of his beloved Harlem and other communities that needed help. So when I arrived as a member of Congress, his 40th year, he was the dean of our delegation. He said, "You're now part of our family, sister, and I'm going to take care of you." And he did. When I later ran for state office, he made sure I met everybody. He gave me that Charlie Rangel seal of approval. Whether it's biscuits at Sylvia's or walking the streets of Lenox Avenue, he was there for me. And he stood up for me time and time again. And I thought of him yesterday as I went through a grueling 8 hours of testimony before the political theater that has now become our Congress. I thought of Charlie because I knew I'd be here today, and I said, what would Charlie do? And I just harnessed his cool, right? Just keep your cool. Don't let him get to you. Don't get under your skin. And I thought of what he'd want me to do, and he'd want me to stand up and be a loud voice of the people he spoke for, and I did. Despite the hatred that was spewed against people who came to our country looking for a better life, I stood up and showed him what New York values were, what Harlem values were, what Charlie Rangel values were. Charlie once said, "Leadership is not about the next election. It's about the next generation." And that's why, knowing his love of CUNY, and every time I saw him, my pockets were a little lighter and the money went to CUNY, so I know how passionate he was. I said, let's keep his name alive at his beloved institution and have 20 CUNY graduate students each year named in scholarships, the Charlie Rangel Public Service Scholarship. Let's get it going next fall so the next generation knows his story, his influence, and how he used the power of his position. I think that'll be a lasting tribute to Charlie and Alma Rangel's shared commitment to equality and justice for all. I also think it's important that we immortalize his name. And that's why I'm working with Mayor Adams and Speaker Adams and my team to ensure that there is a prominent street in Harlem that bears the name Charlie Rangel Way, reminding people of the Charlie Rangel Way and how he conducted himself and how he was undeterred against the forces of evil, and he stood up time and time again. That is the legacy that has been bestowed on all of us. We must leave here today deciding, are we going to pick up that mantle of leadership, or are we going to cower in the face of what is happening to our country as we speak? Not just in Washington, but in cities like New York and Los Angeles. Charlie wants us to fight back, and we will. Thank you, everyone. Let's do it in Charlie's name. God bless all of you.
Thank you, Governor. At this time, we will have the Honorable Hakeem Jeffries, House Democratic Leader, who will now speak.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Distinguished members of the clergy, to President Clinton, Governor Hochul, my distinguished colleagues in the House and in the Senate, all of my colleagues in government, all those assembled to the village of Harlem, and those that Charlie Rangel represented, and of course to the Rangel family. It's with a heavy heart that we gather here today, and that on behalf of the House, I offer our deepest condolences on the passing, Stephen and Alicia and the grandsons of your father, your grandfather, to the Rangel family of this great patriarch and this great leader. We mourn his loss, but of course we are also here to celebrate the life of Charles B. Rangel, a great American patriot. Now, Charlie Rangel loved the House of Representatives, and the House of Representatives, all of us, we loved him, which is why there are more than 20 members, past and present, of the House who are here today, including Speaker Emerita Nancy D'Alessandro Pelosi. I would ask the House delegation if they could all stand. And I'm thankful. We are here, of course, to celebrate Congressman Rangel's life. What a life that he lived. What a leader. What a legacy. The legendary Lion of Lenox Avenue. America is better off today because of his service. Now, a lot can be said about Charlie Rangel, but let me just briefly make clear one or two things. Charlie Rangel was a good man, a family man, a well-educated man, a well-dressed man, an alpha man, an army man, a community man, a courageous man, a compassionate man, a heroic man, a humorous man, a hardworking man, and above all else, Charlie Rangel was a Harlem man. He was a Harlem man. He loved Harlem. In fact, I came to understand in my conversations with the great Charlie Rangel that in his heart of hearts, Charlie Rangel took the position that the H in heaven stood for Harlem. We're thankful for his life, his legacy, his leadership. I'm personally thankful. All of us in Congress are thankful for his advice, his guidance, and his mentorship. Always generous, no matter how new you were in public service, new to the United States Congress. He helped us become the best public servants that we could be, the most effective representatives on the ground, back at home in our communities that we could be. Helped us with our re-elections, taught us how to get re-elected, which he was able to do more than 20 times to the House of Representatives without ever losing a race. And you know, thankful for his advice, his guidance. One of the earliest conversations I had with Charlie Rangel was a new member of Congress, was on the subject of fundraising, which of course you have to do to continue your public service journey. And it was a conversation related to his annual birthday event, an event that he would hold each and every August at Tavern on the Green. A who's who of people would show up. And as a new member of Congress, I had the opportunity to attend, struck up the courage, and I said to Charlie Rangel, his annual birthday event in August, I said, Mr. Rangel, is today your actual birthday? He said, no, Jeff. Now, Charlie Rangel would often call me Jeff. I believed it was short for Jeffries, but I never confirmed that, because this was Charlie Rangel. And so you go with the flow. He said, no, my birthday is in June. I said, Mr. Rangel, your birthday is in June, but each and every August you have this spectacular birthday event year after year after year. He said, Jeff, my birthday is whenever the hell my fundraiser tells me it is. He was a good man, had a big heart, big personality, got big things done. So as I take my seat, let me just simply say he returned home, dropped out from high school, went to the Army, was sent to Korea, returned home a war hero, Purple Heart, Bronze Star, saved over 40 members of his unit who were under attack by the Chinese. He told us the story often. Had he done nothing else in his life, he would have already done more than most Americans have ever done for their country. Nothing else. But that wasn't the end of Charlie Rangel's story. So he had to figure out what he was going to do next. And he told us, of course, that he was inspired as it relates to his career by his maternal grandfather who helped to raise him, who worked, of course, as an elevator operator in Manhattan criminal court. And his grandfather urged him to go to law school, having spent a lot of time around lawyers. And Charlie Rangel would tell us that had his grandfather been an elevator operator in a hospital, he may have gone to medical school. But aren't we thankful that his grandfather worked at Manhattan criminal court? Because if he didn't work at Manhattan criminal court, Charlie Rangel would have never gone to law school. Had he never gone to law school, he would have never become a lawyer. Had he never become a lawyer, he couldn't have become a federal prosecutor. Had he never been a federal prosecutor, he likely wouldn't have been elected to the New York State Assembly. Had he never gotten elected to the New York State Assembly, he would have likely not gone to Congress. Had he not gone to Congress, he never could have helped found the Congressional Black Caucus. Had he never been a founder of the Congressional Black Caucus, he never would have been appointed to the Ways and Means Committee in 1974, first African American ever to serve on the Ways and Means Committee. Had he never emerged as an effective member of the Ways and Means Committee, he never could have become such a champion for using the tax code to make life better for the American people, a champion of the low-income housing tax credit, champion of the child tax credit, champion of the economic opportunity tax credit, champion of the Rangel Amendment, which used the tax code to help dismantle apartheid, champion of empowerment zone legislation that revitalized the inner city. Had he never emerged as an effective member of the Ways and Means Committee, then he never could have become the chairman of this powerful committee, the first African American in the nation's history to serve, using that committee to do things like helping President Obama pass the historic Affordable Care Act. We're thankful for Charlie Rangel's journey, because Charlie Rangel's journey taught us that while the devil may be a hater, God will be your elevator. He'll open the right door, he'll press the right button, and he'll get you to where you need to go. And I'm thankful that Charlie Rangel had one last stop on his journey. It wasn't City College, it wasn't the Rangel Center, it wasn't 145th in Lenox. He had one last stop on his journey, and it was up in heaven. And when he got there, I'm told that Alma Rangel, his beloved wife of 60 years, was there. And Hazel Dukes was there. And Constance Baker Motley was there. And Percy Sutton was there. And Basil Patterson was there. And David Dinkins was there to greet him. But the first person that said anything to him was Charlie Rangel's grandfather, who said, "Welcome home, Charlie. You've reached the top floor." God bless you, Charlie Rangel.
Thank you. At this time, we will now have the Honorable Charles E. Schumer, Senate Democratic Leader.
Good morning to the church.
Good morning.
Good morning, Harlem.
Good morning.
It is so great to be here with all of you and my colleagues, the beautiful Rangel family, and President Clinton, Governor Hochul, Leader Jeffries, Senator Gillibrand, Speaker Pelosi, and all of you. Now, whenever you lose a loved one, someone as dear as Charlie is to all of us, someone who's been part of our lives for so long, you never know what quality of theirs will stand out as you look back. I am speaking of that special quality in someone that spontaneously just comes to you over and over again as you look back and miss them. For me, with Charlie, it was his voice. You remember that voice? I think of Charlie and I hear it echoing around in my head and in my heart. The voice comes to me. No one, I mean no one, sounded like Charlie sounded. The voice had an instrumental quality to it. It was alternatively raspy and resonant. It whispered. It wailed. He went high, he went low. The voice, like Charlie, had so much range. And Charlie played that voice like another Charlie. Charlie Parker played the sax. He was a master, sometimes playing a sweet melody, sometimes playing a unique, witty, and genius improvisation. That voice was a gift from God. But as we all know from the parable of the talents Jesus taught us about the 3 men who were given different amounts of money by their master and told to use it as they felt best, it's not about the amount of value of the gifts you're given. Rather, it is about what you do with the gifts you have been given. And from the streets of Harlem to the halls of Congress to the West Wing of the White House, Charlie used that unique voice of his to speak for others. As Harlem rappers Eric B. and Rakim would say, Charlie was the invincible microphone fiend, a smooth operator operating correctly. Just to persuade voters, to build power, to deliver help to those in need, to call out injustice and economic unfairness and racial bias, to fight for the underdog. That even included me. Charlie endorsed me for the Senate. No one thought I could beat Al D'Amato when I was at about 8% in the polls. and precious few believed I could win. But Charlie and the wonderful Jim Capel, does everyone remember Jim? Went all in for me and played a massive role in turning things around and paving a path to victory. When Charlie endorsed me, he told me in typical fashion, "I'm with you till I'm not." But he was always with me, not only when I got to the Senate, but throughout our career. The Chuck and Charlie show was always moving forward. I'll never stop thanking Charlie for all of that. From the lofty platform he achieved via his talent and hard work, Charlie used that voice to make policy that reflected those biblical values he learned as an altar boy at St. Aloysius. To clothe and feed the poor by robustly funding SNAP. And we're fighting to keep SNAP. We're not going to let those sons of guns take it away from us. To house the needy. When everyone else on the Ways and Means Committee would ask for little goodies for themselves, the only thing Charlie ever asked for was increase the low-income housing tax credit, and millions of people are living in decent housing because of what Charlie did. To care for the sick with better access to health care, including passage of the Affordable Care Act. And together we fought to get equitable Medicaid for Puerto Rico, to visit the imprisoned and help them get back to the community when he passed the Second Chance Act. Or better yet, to pass laws that fund education and job training and create empowerment zones to make it less likely people go to prison in the first place. Yes, Charlie used that wonderful, amazing, sonorous voice for others. He used it in all too human a way as well, to make us laugh. As we know, Charlie was a funny guy, and he was master of the sharp-witted quip. Above all, he used his voice to care for those he loved, especially for his beloved Alma, who I adored, his children, Stephen and Alicia, the grandkids, Howard and Johnson and Charles. Now, as all of you may know, when Charlie was an assemblyman in the 60s, he and a small handful of others were the first members of the Black and Puerto Rican caucus. After a few years, after I became senator, Charlie came to Temple with me. As many of you know, my Temple was my Sunday morning press conferences. Anyway, following that event, Charlie said he was not relishing driving all the way up to Albany to go to the Black and Puerto Rican caucus dinner. So I said I insisted he fly with me instead. I think he thought this was a fancy or luxurious option. When he saw the little pickup truck with wings that I used to fly around the state where you couldn't even stand up in it, I could see on his face he was concerned. "I thought this was a big plane," he said. But off we flew and jostled and juggled and bumped along the way. I looked over, and I could see this decorated Korean War veteran was a little more than concerned. Charlie hated the turbulence, but he would never admit it. He was, of course, the Lion of Lenox Avenue, after all. But we got there, and over the years, we had many trips back and forth. And I will tell you, I absolutely relished my travels in that little plane with Charlie, just for the chance to spend an hour and a half of uninterrupted time with him, talking politics, making fun of each other. It was priceless. It was my small way of saying thank you to Charlie for being a mentor, for being a dear friend, for being one of the very first to believe in me, and for a lifetime of service to Harlem, to New York, to America, and to the globe. You see, that story is Charlie at his core. No matter how much experience no matter how much turbulence he experienced in his life, he would never wear it. He kept his head down, his eyes forward, his voice speaking out for those in need. He was brilliant, bold, funny, fearless, all at the same time. And Charlie believed in America, an America like one fellow Harlemite, the great Langston Hughes spoke of when he wrote, "Let America be the dream the dreamers dreamed. Let it be that great strong land of love, where never kings connive, nor tyrants scheme, that any man be crushed by one above." My friends, we need to hold fast to that vision in the face of those who present a darker vision for our nation, who want to turn this democracy into a dictatorship and treat other human beings as badly as they do, as we saw yesterday with my dear friend and colleague Alex Padilla. We need to listen to hear Charlie's voice and carry on the spirit and purpose of his work to uplift others, because above all, Charlie took pride in the people he lifted up. Like so many of you, so many in this gathering, I am forever grateful to be one of them. So Charlie, my dear, dear Charlie, who I love so much, rest in peace. We love you, we miss you, and we will carry you with us always.
Thank you, Leader Schumer. At this time, we invite forward the Honorable William J. Clinton, the 42nd President of the United States.
Senator Schumer, Leader Jeffries, Governor Hochul, Senator Gillibrand, Mayor Adams, Speaker Pelosi, members and former members of the House of Representatives who served with Charlie Rangel. I would like to thank Charlie's grandchildren, Stephen and Alicia, and the entire family here today, first for asking me to say a few words about my friend, my steadfast allies, and as been said, one of the most effective members ever to serve in the Congress. But second, for supporting him in his long career. I thank the members of his district who let him come to Washington 23 times, and for giving him the space and support not just to faithfully serve Harlem, but to serve the rest of the nation and people all around the world. Not every district will do that. And the people who sent him there deserve thanks for the life he lived. You know, another great New Yorker, FDR, was called the Happy Warrior. Really, he called another great New Yorker, Governor Al Smith, a happy warrior in his speech. But I don't think I ever knew a happier warrior than Charlie Rangel. And there are so many things you could talk about, but I want to talk about two things he did in particular that touched my life and changed my ability to be president in the right way. First, when we were working on our first big economic bill, Charlie wanted very much to include the empowerment zones. So did I. I campaigned on it. I didn't know if we'd get it because in the beginning we only had enough money to do 6 in the whole country. But the very first one was in Harlem. And so I signed the bill, and we went to work. And what happened? In just 8 years, unemployment